The entire prison went silent the moment he walked in. No tattoos. No fear. No idea who he really was. The biggest bully in the block smiled and said, "Fresh meat." What he didn't know was that this quiet new inmate had ended professional fights in under 10 seconds without throwing a single punch. When the bully tried to humiliate him in front of everyone, the cafeteria became a graveyard of sound. 10 seconds later, the bully collapsed unconscious. Still breathing, still alive, but never the same. Because this wasn't just another prisoner. This was a man the system buried, and the prison was about to learn why some power doesn't need to be loud. Stay with me, because what happened next changed the entire prison forever. The moment the iron gates slammed shut, the sound echoed through cell block D like a gunshot. Every conversation died instantly. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Cards stopped mid-shuffle. Even the TVs humming in the background seemed quieter. Every eye, hardened lifers, twitchy rookies, men who hadn't felt surprise in years, locked onto the new inmate walking in. Big, calm, black. He didn't rush. He didn't hesitate. His boots hit the concrete with slow, deliberate steps, like he was counting them in his head. No flashy tattoos crawling up his neck. No nervous glances. No desperate attempt to look tough. Just control. In prison, that kind of calm was dangerous. Whispers started immediately, crawling through the block like smoke. Fresh meat. Look at his size. He won't last a week in D block. Razor's gonna test him for sure. At the far end of the cell block, Razor leaned back on his bench, cracking his knuckles one by one. 6'5", built like a wrecking ball. His face looked like it had been carved out of bad decisions, old knife scars, a crooked nose, and eyes that never blink first. Razor ruled this block through fear. He didn't need gangs or weapons. His reputation did the work for him. New inmates were his favorite, easy targets, quick lessons. He watched the newcomer carefully. Something felt off. Most new guys tried too hard. They puffed their chests, talked loud, or they shrank, shoulders tight, eyes darting like trapped animals. This man did neither. His shoulders were relaxed. His hands hung loose at his sides. His breathing never changed. The intake officer read the name flat and fast. Read Marcus. A few heads turned again. The name didn't ring bells, but the silence around it did. Marcus Reed glanced around the block, not with fear, but with assessment, like he was mapping exits, measuring distances, counting bodies. His eyes passed over Razor for half a second, just long enough to acknowledge him, then moved on. That was a mistake, or maybe a warning. Razor stood slowly, rolling his shoulders, a grin spreading across his face. The kind of grin men wear right before someone bleeds. "Tonight," he muttered under his breath, loud enough for nearby inmates to hear, "I eat." But as Marcus Reed disappeared down the row of cells, one thing became clear to the men watching closely. The hunter might not be the only predator in cell block D. The cafeteria was chaos the way it always was, metal trays clanging, inmates shouting across tables, laughter sharp and ugly. The air smelled like boiled meat and bleach. Guards watched from the walls, bored eyes scanning out of habit more than concern. Then Razor stood up. The noise didn't stop all at once. It drained away, like someone slowly twisting down the volume. Conversations died mid-sentence. Heads turned. Everyone knew what came next. Razor walked with purpose, shoulders wide, knuckles already flexing. Each step echoed louder than it should have. He stopped at Marcus's table and looked down at him like a man examining something he was about to break. "Hey, Ricky," Razor barked. "That seat's taken." Marcus didn't react right away. He finished chewing, swallowed, then looked up slowly. His eyes were calm. Not defiant. Not scared. Just steady, like a lake with no ripples. "I'm sitting," Marcus said. 3 words. The room froze solid. A fork clattered to the floor somewhere behind them. Someone whispered, "Oh, damn." Razor stared at Marcus, then threw his head back and laughed. It was loud, exaggerated, meant to remind everyone who owned the room. "You got courage," Razor said, leaning closer, breath hot with coffee and rage. "Or stupidity." Before Marcus could move, Razor slapped the tray. Metal screamed against concrete as food exploded everywhere. Watery beans, bread, gray meat splattering across Marcus's boots. Razor smiled. "On your knees," he growled. "Pick it up." Every man watching knew this ritual. This was how Razor broke people. Make them bow. Make them crawl. Once that happened, the rest of their sentence belonged to him. Marcus didn't move. Slowly, deliberately, he pushed his chair back and stood. And that's when it happened. Something in the air changed. Not anger. Not fear. Control. Marcus stood eye to eye with Razor, close enough to feel the heat coming off his body. His hand stayed open, his shoulders loose. His breathing never sped up. "I don't want problems," Marcus said quietly, "but I won't be disrespected." The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. A collective gasp rippled through the cafeteria. Even the guards leaned forward slightly now. Razor's smile vanished. "You think you're special?" Razor snapped, shoving Marcus hard in the chest. Marcus didn't stumble, didn't flinch, didn't move an inch. That was the moment Razor crossed from dominance into danger. And everyone watching knew it. He'd just humiliated the wrong man. Razor swung first. A wide, angry hook. Pure power, zero control. Bad move. Before most people even registered the punch, Marcus was already gone. He shifted half a step to the side, smooth and economical, like he'd seen this attack 1,000 times before. Razor's fist sliced through empty air. In the same motion, Marcus caught Razor's wrist. Twisted. Crack. The sound snapped through the cafeteria like a gunshot. Razor screamed. Not a tough guy roar, an actual scream. Hi. Panicked. His knees buckled for a split second as pain shot up his arm. The room exploded with shouts. But Marcus didn't pause. He flowed. Razor tried to yank his arm back, swinging wildly with the other hand. But Marcus was already moving, stepping in close, sliding behind him like a shadow snapping into place. One arm looped around Razor's neck. The other locked it in. A choke, tight, clean, terrifyingly calm. No wild punches. No slamming heads. No rage in his face. Just precision. Razor thrashed, boots scraping against the concrete. He tried to throw an elbow backward, missed air. Tried again, nothing. His strength drained fast, panic flooding his eyes as his body realized it wasn't winning this fight. The cafeteria was dead silent now. No cheering. No laughter. No whispers. Just the sound of Razor's ragged breathing, getting shorter. Marcus leaned in slightly, his voice low. So low only Razor could hear it. "Tap," Marcus whispered, calm as a teacher correcting a mistake. Or sleep. Razor clawed at Marcus's arm. His face turned red, then purple. His legs shook, betrayed by his own body. 10 seconds. That's all it took. Razor's knees folded, and his massive frame collapsed forward like a puppet with its strings cut. He hit the floor hard, unconscious, limp. Not dead. Breathing. Alive. The entire cell block stood frozen, mouths open, eyes wide. Men who had watched stabbings, without blinking, couldn't process what they'd just seen. That wasn't a fight. That was a shutdown. Guards stormed in, batons raised, shouting orders, until they saw Razor sprawled on the floor, chest rising and falling. Their steps slowed. Confusion replaced aggression. Marcus released the hold and stepped back immediately, raising his hands. "I'm done," he said calmly, almost respectfully. No adrenaline. No shaking. No victory pose. Just control. That night, Cell Block D buzzed like a live wire. Who was that guy? That wasn't luck. Did you see how he moved? That footwork, that choke. And somewhere between whispers and fear, the truth finally began to surface. Marcus Reed wasn't just another inmate. He was something else entirely. The file landed on the warden's desk with a heavy thud. 2 guards stood nearby, still shaken, while the warden flipped it open in silence. Marcus Reed. The pages told a story no one expected to find inside a prison. Former undefeated MMA world champion. Multiple international titles. A specialist in submissions so clean and fast they barely showed up on replay. In underground fight circles, he was known by a name whispered with unease. The Dead Hand. Not because he killed, because once he touched you, The fight was already over. He ended matches without throwing a single punch. No blood. No drama. Just cold, surgical control. Opponents tapped or went to sleep. Sometimes both. The warden leaned back, exhaling slowly. "So why is a man like this in my prison?" he asked. The answer was buried deeper in the file. A rigged business deal. Money tied to the wrong people. A charge that never should have stuck. Marcus Reed hadn't lost a fight in the cage. He'd lost one in court. The guards exchanged looks. They understood now. What they had on their hands wasn't just an inmate. It was a weapon. One that didn't need anger to be dangerous. Word moved through the prison faster than any official announcement. Faster than fear. In cell block D, information traveled mouth to mouth, cell to cell, yard to yard. The guy who dropped Razor. He's a champion. No, he's that champion. The change was immediate. Inmates stopped testing Marcus. Loud mouths went quiet when he walked by. Bullies crossed the yard just to avoid passing too close. Even Razor, once the most feared man in the block, refused to make eye contact after waking up in medical, his arm in a brace. His pride shattered. Marcus never acknowledged it. He didn't posture, didn't boast, didn't collect followers. He spent his time reading worn paperbacks, training alone in the corner of the yard, movements controlled, almost meditative. When weaker inmates were pushed or threatened, Marcus stepped in, not with fists, but with presence. A look, a word, a calm warning, and that was enough. Fights dropped. Noise faded. The tension that had choked cell block D for years began to loosen. Something strange happened. Order returned. Not because men were afraid of Marcus Reed, but because they respected him. For the first time in a long time, power in cell block D wasn't held by the loudest bully. It belonged to the quietest man in the room. Months passed in cell block D, quieter than anyone remembered it ever being. Then one morning, Marcus Reed's name echoed down the corridor. "Reed, pack up." Heads turned. Whispers started instantly. That wasn't a transfer call. That wasn't punishment. Everyone felt it. Marcus stepped out of his cell calmly, the same way he'd entered the prison months earlier. He folded his few belongings with care, books stacked neatly, shoes placed side by side. No rush, no smile, just composure. In the administration wing, signatures were signed, stamps slammed down, files closed, charges dismissed, evidence exposed. A setup unraveled piece by piece. The truth had finally caught up. When Marcus walked back through cell block D one last time, the atmosphere felt heavy, but not tense. Inmates lined the rails on the upper tiers. Others stood beside their bunks. Men who once shouted now stayed silent. No cheers. No clapping. No last-minute bravado. Just nods. Small, respectful acknowledgments from men who understood exactly what kind of power he carried, and how little he'd ever used it. At the end of the block stood Razor. No entourage. No grin. No fire in his eyes. His arm had healed, but something else hadn't. The dominance was gone, replaced by humility. When Marcus approached, Razor lowered his gaze, not in fear, but acceptance. Marcus stopped beside him. "Violence ends fast," Marcus said quietly. "Respect lasts longer." Razor swallowed and nodded once. Nothing else needed to be said. The final gate buzzed. Heavy steel doors slid apart with a deep mechanical groan. Sunlight spilled into the corridor, sharp and blinding after months of gray. Marcus took one step, then another. No music, no raised fists, no victory lap. Just a man walking forward. Outside, the gates closed behind him with a final clang, the sound of an ending and a beginning. The deadliest fighter in history walked free. Not as a champion, not as a legend, not as the dead hand, but as a man who proved that true power doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, and doesn't need an audience. And inside those walls, long after he was gone, the story stayed alive. Cell block D never forgot the day the bully chose the wrong inmate and learned what real strength truly looks like. That day, Cell block D learned a lesson no rulebook could teach. Real strength isn't in intimidation. It isn't in violence. And it doesn't need to announce itself. The bully lost his crown. The prison found order. And one man walked free with his dignity untouched. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button, thumbs up, subscribe for more powerful true style stories, and comment below what you think real strength really means. Because sometimes, the most dangerous man in the room is the quiet one.